talk to you about this wonderful 5-day challenge that I'm in the middle of, the Vision to Action Challenge. And for those of you who haven't signed up for it yet, there's still a day left. We've got the prizes for all the first 5 days, but the grand prize, you can still get that. You can still get in and still get the prize by coming in before midnight on Sunday, January 16th. And today is Saturday. That means you have a whole day. So if you haven't joined the challenge yet, and especially if you play the harp, go to hipharp.com. That's hip as in cool, harp as in the instrument.com, and just sign up there. You'll see a link right there. And I want to talk about what this challenge is all about. I mean, all my musical challenges are all about freeing yourself from the page and learning and doing that with improvisation. And by the way, I think I'm streaming on several different channels, but I think I can see chats from at least some of them. So if you have questions, go ahead and ask the questions. The most important reason I'm here is I want to tell you about the challenge and make sure that you get in while it's still free, because it'll be closed down at the end of next week, and still get in while you could still win the grand prize, which is, by the way, a 90-minute one-on-one coaching session to work on anything you want with me, and a $100 digital shopping spree in my catalog, and a hand-drawn badge. So it's all these things. It's coaching, it's being able to download music, and it's also creativity from me to you. I want to talk about what I'm teaching in this challenge, because what I do, I have 4 challenges each year, and each of them is basically like the first lesson of whatever we're going to be working on next. And what we're working on from January, February, March, and into the beginning of April is something called creative resonance. And it's all about the principles that take you from being just like, that bring your music alive. But what we're doing in this challenge is taking very simple motifs. So we're used to seeing music like, if I did this, you'd see that as a bunch of different notes. But that's not how I see it. I see it as one thing, which is, or maybe 2 things, an F chord, an F major 7 chord, and then a melody spinning off the top of it. So what I'm always doing all the time, whether I'm working on my music for myself or I'm working on teaching, I'm breaking, unless I'm composing something and I'm putting it together, when I'm teaching and when I'm improvising, I'm thinking about how to break things down, how to break them down to their absolute essence, so you get out of all the preconceived notions of how it should be played. So normally when you play music that somebody else has written or arranged, they have come up with an idea, and then they have decided how they are going to spin that idea out, and they write it down on the page, and then you translate it and you put it into your fingers. But what if you could get a connection directly to the same inspiration, the same motif, the same idea that they had, and you could spin it out in a much simpler way, a way that speaks about you, and a way in which you're learning the fundamentals of improvisation. And that's what you learn to do in the 5-day Vision to Action Challenge, is what you learn to do in Hip Harp Academy, especially in this first quarter when we're learning creative resonance. And there's a reason it's called creative resonance. But first, let me just tell you that a motif, this particular motif, for example, it has this little shape of music. It's just this little shape. And that's the heart of this whole piece. You can put it anywhere. You can turn it upside down. You can make it smaller. You can put a bunch of them together. You can put it upside down and make it larger. It's just a shape, and you start playing with it. And it's really just a shape to give you almost like a scaffolding, something to think about. If somebody just says, go do anything, I don't know about you, but that's one of the hardest things I can possibly do. Like, just go be creative. it's really helpful for me to have an idea to be creative about. Like if somebody says, take this feather, and what are 5 different things that you can do with this feather? Well, I can turn it upside down. I can, do this with it. I can pretend that I don't know. I mean, there's like 5 different things I can do with this feather. Same thing. Well, there's an infinite number of things I can do with that feather. There's an infinite number of things that I can do with this feather. That's also like a feather. It's a thing that I can play with when I know how to play with it. And that's what people learn how to do in the 5-day Vision to Action Challenge. They learn how to play with motifs. And that's what we're doing for the next quarter, for the next 10 or 12 weeks in Hip Harp Academy. So let me just show you what this is built of. It's built of that little motif, but also a harmonic, two different harmonies together, so that you get this harmony and then this harmony. And the relationship of those 2 harmonies, starts kind of opening up a harmonic story. It gives you something to play with. You can, of course, add rhythm. And you can make that into something larger. You can start building it and building it and building it. Now, I don't know how many of you read the Dr. Seuss book, and to think that I saw it on Mulberry Street, which this little kid goes out one day and he walks down the street, and his dad's or somebody's always asking him, what did you see? You got to have an imagination. So this day, this kid just sees like a wagon. But when he goes home, he starts embellishing on it, and he just keeps seeing, well, I saw this wagon with 25 horses, and it had this and it had that. Just keeps embellishing on this one thing. What's beautiful about that, the embellishment on one thing, is you can always come back to this one thing. So it's a really powerful way to learn improv, because that one thing becomes the safe thing. So, for example, I can go back and forth. I can add. I can add thirds underneath that melody. I could add sixths, and we'll see what that would sound like. It's just a way to start, and then you keep going and you keep adding, There's another fairy tale like that called Stone Soup, where you start with something simple and you keep adding and adding and adding. It's the adding that becomes the creativity. So that's what these vision motifs are about. And the reason I call them vision music is because there's not that much to learn. I mean, that's the melody. That's the whole thing. You just learned it. But learning it is not what it's about. It's like this is a gold pan, and you're panning for gold. You use it as a focus for discovery. And again, for anybody who hasn't already joined the challenge, go to hipharp.com. Hip as in cool, harp as in the instrument. You can sign up free for the challenge right now. Anyone who's in the challenge, if you haven't done all the posts, do them now, because everyone in the challenge is eligible for the grand prize, which is a pretty grand prize. They're eligible for the grand prize. You can go back and you can finish all the posts that you didn't finish. If you're in the challenge, you're like, oh, I didn't do day one. You can go back and do day one and any of the others. Plus, there's a special grand prize post. And if you've done all of those, you're eligible for the grand prize, even if you didn't do anything during the rest of the challenge. And this is why it's great to tell your friends as well. So learning to play music this way takes you away from the technical complexity. We all tend to, or maybe not everybody, but I certainly do, and other people that I talk to tend to equate better with more elaborate. And so this comes back to something very simple. It can become very elaborate, but it should start out very simple so that you can really ground in that and everything that means. And then ground in the fact that the right hand is still the same, but the left hand changes. And what happens there? well, the whole feeling changes. This is one feeling, and then you change the harmony and everything changes. Or you expand the bass and you expand the right hand. But it's still the same thing. At the heart, it's still. And that's part of the beauty, is you can always go back and find that. And there are an infinite number of these. In the Academy, we call them snippets. And every week I teach a different snippet. But this challenge, the 5-day challenge at hipharp.com, that is a challenge in which I teach you just 5 of these. And what's beautiful is when you put them together, you create a suite. And so after 5 days, you have this creative improvisation suite that you can play. So, and then so what do you do with it? Well, there's a lot of things to do with it. You can, for people who play in therapeutic situations, it's so great to have something that's simple. And this is just one of them. There's another one that goes like this. In its simplest form, it goes like this. I'm just playing all the white keys with my white strings with my right hand. And I'm just playing an A and an E, and then a G and a D. So that's the game. All the white strings with my right hand. And the left hand switches back and forth. So far, so good. But then the left hand goes down one more step, and it opens up all the strings. And then it comes back and it starts again. And it can tell a story. You can tell a story with that. I mean, you could literally tell a story with your mouth, but it's an emotional story. It's in a story of sort of, well, it can mean different things. It could be pristine, it could be quiet, it could be constrained. But there comes a point where you open up and all the music is available. And you can, this is just me playing a melody underneath. Doesn't matter which notes, I'm playing a melody underneath that right hand. And then I come back and I'm back. It's like a musical game. You just play it over and you play it over and over. And if you do this without, as you do it, you also, all the stuff comes up in your head that comes up in your head, like this isn't music, or this is too simple, or this is too hard, or whatever it is. You also collect all that stuff and then you let it go. You play and you let it go, and you play and you let it go, and you play and you let it go. And so this music lets you start having a vision of freedom, as well as giving you the tools for freedom, as well as giving you a structure for freedom. And freedom requires a scaffold. I mean, it requires a foundation. Otherwise, it's chaos. And so that's what this gives you. It gives you the tools, it gives you the vision, and it also gives you the, the scaffold, and the structure, the tools, the structure, and the vision. And then and your skill starts growing the more that you do it. And then what we're going to do in Hip Harp Academy, which is starting up on January 24th, is we're going to take this and use this to expand our creative resonance. So what is creative resonance? Well, I'm doing a whole workshop on it tomorrow, January 16th at 3:30 p.m. Go to hipharp.com. Oh, is it there? Oh, I hope the link is there. If it isn't, I'll put it there. So I'm doing, but if you join the vision, if you join the Vision to Action Challenge, I'll also tell you about this workshop tomorrow. You'll get a reminder for it. So just join the challenge. You'll get everything. You get everything. And so what I'm going to be doing in January is then from January through the beginning of April is to be teaching how to then take what you just learned, this vision music, or a piece you already play, or a story that you learn to tell with music. One of those three. And we take them through the 7 principles that take anything, any creative project, from impulse to creative expression. I'm just going to check here. Okay, I wanted to check. There's something that I need to do. So the first step for you is to make sure that you're signed up for the challenge. And so I'm just going to go through and play these again so you can just kind of hear. And you can hear that even though the heart of these is very simple, it's fascinating to keep playing them and applying anything that you learn. Anything that you learn about improvisation, you can apply to these little ideas. So that's the first one. I could play it for another 5 minutes, but I'm just going to keep it very short. Here's the second one. I can add rhythm to this, or I can keep it very simple. That's the second little theme, but that's me playing with it. And here's the third theme, which is pretty open. And you can turn it can be played simply, or it can be played much more complicatedly. Simply, it's just, that's it. And then you can play a melody back to it. You can actually create a pentatonic scale, which I teach you how to do, and play back to it. Or you can play it with attitude. That's that little theme. And then the fourth movement is basically this. It's nothing I'm doing with my right hand, it's what I'm doing with my left hand. My right hand is just kind of making up melodies, making up shapes. That's basically it. So you're in a sense, it's kind of like a little journey. You're getting to go on a journey through different musical atmospheres, but they're created out of very, very simple little parts. And as you do it day after day, you get more and more comfortable with it. And then finally, the final movement is just basically a C in the bass and these two really beautiful chords. And what you're doing, the game that you're playing, is you're playing a bass note and then this harmony, and then you're playing back to yourself. So you're learning the art of bass accompaniment, listening to what you're playing and playing back, listening to the harp sing and ring, and you sing back to it. And so you start to have this resonance between you and the instrument. And then as you start applying the principles of creative resonance, that resonance gets larger and larger and deeper and richer. So this is a really beautiful, this is something that I've been developing for years. First, I developed the principles because I use them in my own work to help me enrich anything that I'm doing. And then I was like, how can I teach that to other people? What if I came up, because I don't want people to have to worry about the technical aspects. So I came up with the simple parts of this challenge. You don't even have to learn the whole challenge. You can just do part of it and still be able to apply those beautiful principles of connection. It's like, how do you connect? It's very difficult for people to connect when they're worrying about the technical aspects of something. And so when you take it down and apart to its simplest form, start building it back up, that allows us to connect. As we do that, everything in our head is, that's not real music, that's hard, and that's not hard enough, that's not complex enough, that blah, 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 blah. And so we never get to have that total connection unless we take it down to its essential. And as a composer, that's something that I've spent my life learning how to do. And as a harpist and an improviser, learning how to do that on the harp. And then as a coach, learning how to share that with others. And I love working with groups of people in which there's a spectrum of technical ability, because that's where we learn from each other. And not just the people who have only been playing a little while learn from the people who've been playing forever. It often goes in the other direction, that the people who haven't been playing as long are able to open up ideas and concepts of simplicity that really open things up for everyone. So if you haven't joined the challenge, please join now. Go to hipharp.com. Make sure that you get in before it closes, which is going to close next week, but get in now so that you can actually be part of the grand prize. I hope I see you there. And for everybody who's in the challenge, I'm so proud and moved by everything that everyone is sharing. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And I hope I see you many more times. This is Deborah Henson-Conant, harping on the good things in life. And my motto is connection, not perfection. And I will model that imperfection for you all the time. All right.